Welcome everybody, John Crable here from My Small Business Blueprint. I wanted to get in touch with you today via this webinar to really get a couple messages across. If you've seen our advertisements, if you've seen our name with Small Business Spotlight or with any of the small business work we do, hopefully it's grabbed your attention. What I really want to be able to focus on today with you, why you click through to this webinar, is to get you in the best possible scenario to start your own business. So I want to walk you through a couple of the different processes that we use here at My Small Business Blueprint, give you some background, give you the important whys, but then really focus on what we have found to be successful, and that's going to be not only the product that you offer, but also the process, and that's really what you can take hold of in the short term and the long term. If at any point in time during the webinar you have a question that you want to shoot off to us, obviously you have our email address right there, support@mysmallbusinessblueprint, or you can go over to mysmallbusinessblueprint.com, take the introduction survey, get in touch with us, give us some beginning feedback, and we will get back to you within 24 hours. That's my promise to you. So if you look at entrepreneurship and work in general, I pulled this Gallup poll from October 2013, and it just talks about people being engaged at work, liking what they do. So it kind of draws the differentiation there between engaged and passionate and people who just don't care about going to work on a day-to-day basis. And it isn't just the United States. I mean, this is going to be worldwide, a global poll. So 250 million workers, 189 countries. And what we found, or what Gallup found, was 63% of people are not engaged at work. They go, they achieve their objectives, they go home, they take no satisfaction from it whatsoever. It also found that 24% of these workers hate their jobs. I can't even fathom that. I mean, 1 out of every 4 people, as someone that deals with students, as a teacher on a day-to-day basis, 24%, 1 out of every 4 of those students is going to go on to hate their actual job. This brings 87% of workers across the globe don't actually like what they do. So from that standpoint, what's that next step? I mean, you can't engage your entire adult professional life in an industry and a profession that you just cannot stand on a day-to-day basis. So what is going to be that next step? Well, hopefully you have clicked through to My Small Business Blueprint, you are watching this webinar, and you're asking yourself, what actually took me to this step? Why am I going down this path? Why am I entertaining opening a small business at all? I think there's a lot of reasons. Some of the big ones that we focus on are obviously retirement. Maybe you want to do a seasonal business. Maybe you want to do a part-time business. Maybe it's Etsy or oil changes on the weekend or carpentry or any of these skilled trades that are out there. And from a retirement standpoint, entrepreneurship can be a great benefit for you. If you read the quote right there, because you've given so much of yourself to the company that you just don't have anything left that they can use. And there's something true to that. From a big corporate perspective, once they don't see the value that you provide, they'll show you the door, right? Once it's a cost-benefit analysis, once you start costing them too much, they can get rid of you. And they don't have the emotion about it either, right? The second part of it is maybe you have short-term money. I think entrepreneurship is great from the standpoint of being able to take that family vacation every year, or working to send your kids to college, or a project, or a new minivan, or a car, or whatever it might be. Some of the short-term ramifications of entrepreneurship and the benefits can really be beneficial for you about helping your short-term cash flow and meet some objectives that you really want in your life. Next slide, obviously, your family, and this is my family, our 3 boys, April, my wife. This was actually on a family vacation up to Michigan. So from our standpoint, maybe this is, entrepreneurship provides the avenue where you can spend more time at home, go to more soccer, football, baseball games, anything like that. Spend more time outside. Take your kids on vacation. All these things are playing into each other, and whatever your reason is for opening your small business or taking that next step to become an entrepreneur, I love the goals. I love the reasons, and we want to make sure that we focus in on each one of those goals for your own purposes, and we can clearly define why you are getting into this. And lastly, I borrowed this from The Office. Obviously, Jim Halpert here saying in one of the episodes, right now this is just a job, talking about his career at Dunder Mifflin. If I advance any higher in this company, this would be my career, and well, if this were my career, I'd have to throw myself in front of a train. It goes back to that Gallup poll. Why are we actually working? Is it to advance ourselves? Is it because we like it? The numbers say that on average we really don't like it. Almost 9 in 10 people don't like going to their job or in their career. So just a little bit of background about how I got to this point in my life with small business, and why I view it as such a major part of our freedoms and how you can really create your own future. And that's what we want to focus on, right? Creating your own future. So when I was in college, I was a horrible student. I didn't like going to class. I was a business economics major. Got through it at my time of undergrad. Went and got my MBA as well in management. But again, it was a better experience, my MBA versus my undergrad, my bachelor's. But again, not necessarily fully fulfilled. So I get out of college, and what I had wanted to do for the longest time that I can remember was become a sports agent, right? Played football, played basketball, wrestling, everything was always outside, and really wanted to have a career in sports. And being a sports agent was something that I really thought was the pinnacle, at least for me. So I got into that actually right out of my MBA, had an internship with the company, got hired by the company, walked into a job as director of sales. We managed professional athletes. Obviously, we did a lot with golf, men's and women's golf. Had NFL players, MLB, represented coaches. For someone who was 24 years old, 25 years old, working in professional sports, I mean, it was a cat's pajamas, right? Like, I had reached a pinnacle from what I thought. And it was great. I learned a lot about sponsorships, learned a lot about marketing and advertising and customer service and networking and negotiation and all of that. So we were doing really well. My wife and I had a set of twins, twin boys, and right at about the time that they were going to turn 1, I went into work one day, and that was it. And within the next month, I was going to be laid off. And so you take someone who had started all the way up here and thought that this was going to be a great opportunity, a long-term opportunity, and really quickly you drop all the way down. I understand the reasons. I understand the reasons why people get laid off and why corporations do what they do. But from my standpoint, it didn't change the day-to-day needs that my family had. And so from that standpoint, my wife had taken a year off of teaching to stay home with the twins, the twin boys. So in the span of about 24 hours, we went from having income and a great future to, man, how are we ever going to survive over the next couple months until she can get back to teaching? So what we ended up doing is we ended up starting a bakery, right? We focused on cookies and deliveries and fundraisers and things like that. And, to go from a sports agent role to going to a baker, one who wants to focus on cookies, that's not a normal career transition. But what my wife and I did is, we looked at what we could do well with baking. We looked at who our networks were. We looked at markets that have been underserved. If you think about cookies, everybody likes cookies. But if you want to start promoting to everybody, there's problems built into that model. So what we did is we focused on some target markets. We focused on what we did really well, and we were able to marry the two. From that standpoint, we got up and running. We did well. We grew month after month, year after year. About 3 years into it, one of the twins, and now we have 3 kids, 3 boys, but about 3 years into it, one of the twins developed celiac disease. And so he was not able to have gluten. He was not able to be around flour. And when you make your income based on flour and cookies and baking, you have a problem when one of your family members gets sick because of that. So what ended up happening is, as quickly as we had ramped that business up and got operations and got sales, it just fell off. We couldn't do it anymore. So we were left at that position again. Well, what's that next step for us? Well, the next steps included, real estate, consulting, financial services, all these things. My wife is big into organic and non-toxic and healthy products, green living, and so she's been able to start her own business doing that. But from my standpoint, I really like the interaction that we got on a one-to-one basis, whether it was working with a customer, working with a supplier, or also helping people along with personal finance, budgeting. And so I got into a role of an educator in teaching. So was able to open up my own company, My Small Business Blueprint. We've been able to work with 500 plus different small businesses and entrepreneurs, getting them from a point where we don't even know if this is possible to making it profitable. And from my standpoint, that's what I want to do. This is really my sweet spot. I found something that I feel that I'm very good at. We've had great experiences, great success stories with some of those people. And this is what I really want to keep doing as we go forward. So this experience, from my standpoint, has really helped because I understand how to work with these small businesses now, right? It's all about mentorship. It's all about working about where you are and what your specific goals are. And so that's what I really want to be able to take forward to you as we go through this journey together. So just a couple other statistics. Why is entrepreneurship important? Well, in 2012, there were 22.7 million non-employer firms in the USA. So that's solo entrepreneurs. Those are the micro-entrepreneurs out there, the people doing it just themselves. From 2009 to 13, small business firms accounted for 60% of job growth. So we see the types of drivers. We're going into an election year. Why is this important? Why is entrepreneurship and small business important? It's because it actually does create jobs. And lastly, small firms accounted for 46% of national GDP in 2008. And obviously those numbers are a little bit old. Think of it from this standpoint. We always look at General Motors and Chase Bank and Ford and Walmart and and GE and all these places being the big drivers of local economies, national economies, global economies. But in reality, it's the husband and the wife, it's a man, it's a woman, it's a teenager who are taking the step, going out there, creating their own dreams, finding their future, and creating jobs for everybody else. That's where we're going to see a lot of the growth, not only now, but always into the future. If you look at Shark Tank, everybody loves Shark Tank, right? You have City Kitty here, you have Cousins Maine Lobster. You can see the success stories from the national perspective as well, right? How we take this little small company and are able to grow it to a big national company as well. Shark Tank is really good for that. If you are active and engaged on a local level, you'll have a lot of different organizations that do these types of pitches as well. The downside to all these national entrepreneurship numbers, it doesn't focus on you. It doesn't focus on what you bring to the table. And so that's what I think is the most important step from taking you from point A, where we're not sure if this is going to be able to happen, to point E, F, and G, and everything out into the future, where you can really plan and set a future for yourself. And that's what we want to focus on. We don't necessarily worry about the big national, international, global numbers. We want to focus on your specific situation. And to do that, we have to know what your goals are. Hopefully, if you're at this point in time and you're watching this webinar, you can list, what your short and what your long-term goals are. But the more important part is you have to be specific with that. What can I do today? What's your to-do list? What's your priority list? What do I need to have done by the end of this week? How fast can I get up and running? And that's another thing that we want to focus on as well, is we want to take you and ramp you up and accelerate you with your business, with your goals, so you can hit the ground running as fast as possible and get sales and create value for your customers. So when we start talking about goals, it's not just, I want to retire early. That doesn't mean anything. What is retiring early? That's very nebulous. It's very gray area. I want you to have a plan where you can say, I want $10,000 in sales in the first 2 months. That's a goal that we can measure, that is very specific, and we can deliver upon and always strive for with our planning, with our strategy. So at this point in time, hopefully nothing is stopping you, right? I mean, hopefully you are able to take that first step, whether it's through My Small Business Blueprint, whether it's through any of the other different mediums that are out there. But there's a lot of things that will always be holding people back, right? Obviously, everybody is worried. That's a psychological thing. It's good. We have to be able to acknowledge that. If you actually watch or sign up for the 4 weeks of feasible course, I sit down with a local mentor and life coach, and they talk about acknowledging that fear, acknowledging that worry, and ways to kind of get over that. So I understand why that worry is out there, but what we need to be able to do is really advance past that. We also want to ask the question of, is this the right path for me? We could ask that about entrepreneurship and small business versus working for somebody else. We want to know what our skill sets are. We want to know what we are really strong in, and that's going to be what drives us into the future. That ties back into goals as well. Also with this is, determining, is this the right path for my business? Well, that's what having a mentor is for. That's what going through this process is for, is that we can set these goals, we can figure out what the customers are doing, figure out what the market is, figure out what the industry wants and what the industry is going for. And then we have a very clear path about the route that we need to take to make that actually happen. It is a process. We do have to work through it. But that's what this course is for. That's what working with My Small Business Blueprint is about, finding the right path for you. And lastly, the process we always talk about, well, I need to have a business plan. I need to have a feasibility study. I understand the need for those things, right? We help people write feasibility studies and business plans all the time. But here's the thing with those business plans and feasibility studies as well. You have a really great document, you go through the research, you understand who your customers are, and then interest rates change. Or there's some national resource crisis, right? The price of oil has been fluctuating a lot in the past couple of weeks. You have some national security problem, and then that throws a wrench into the global economies. Or you go into an election year and you don't know what's going to happen, for Pete's sake. So you put all this time and energy into a business plan, and then the next day it changes, it shifts gears. The point is by focusing on the process for your business, for your goals, for your skill sets, you can go down this path and understand when to pivot, understand when customer nature has changed and you need to find a new demographic, understand the qualities of your product, the benefits of your product to a customer, and then also find other customers that may be interested in that benefit or those features as well. So what you really want to focus on, not just completing this big document, but it's a process that we use to get there. So from my standpoint, why do I do this? Because if I've worked with 500 different people, entrepreneurs, small businesses, very few, I'm talking in the single digits, have we got into this equation, into this process and said, you know what, it's just not, what you are bringing to the table just doesn't have a lot of value. That almost never happens. So from my standpoint, what I've really been able to focus in on feasibility studies, on business planning, business strategy, is what value do you bring to the table? Sometimes it's a skill set. Everybody, there's a big talk about kids always going to college nowadays. Not everybody's meant for college, right? I've even said that my college experience wasn't as valuable as it should have been. But maybe you are really good working with your hands, carpentry, plumbing, electrician, things like that. What I want to be able to do is take that skill set, take your goals, and deliver what the best strategy is to be able to get you from point A to point B to be able to meet those goals. I honestly believe that everybody that goes through this process has a value that they bring to the table. It's our job and it's your job to find out what that is and deliver upon it. The second part of this is your future. I would not be where I am today if I hadn't taken a bet with the cookies and with financial and real estate. But it started with that first step, right? We have to believe in what we do so much that we can see our future and make it actually happen for us. So I believe in your value. I believe what you are bringing to the table on an individual level, and I believe that we can make that future happen. It's not an easy process, but I do believe that it is possible for us. And the way that we do this, and whether it's with consulting, whether it's with one of our courses, whatever it may be, is focusing on the process, right? We're going to focus on your concept. What do you bring to the table with your business, with your service, with your skill set that we can actually take advantage of, that you can take advantage of, we can monetize, and we can create profits, we can create sales going forward for you. We want to focus on identifying your target customer. This is a big part of the process, quite frankly, because if you look at, let's just go back to carpentry or plumbing or even HVAC services, HVAC. What the general thinking of is everybody has an air conditioner, everybody has a furnace, businesses, individuals, commercial, I mean, all this stuff, right? So everyone is my target customer. Well, if that's the case, and your target customer group is this big, I mean, it's even longer than my arms can extend. But the problem with that is that there's always going to be competitors out there that do a better job in certain areas, have more money to spend, have been in business longer, and so as a result, they're going after the same group as well. What we want to be able to do is we want to be able to say, okay, these are the groups of people that I can reach the easiest. These are the groups of people that see the most value in what I offer to them. And these are the people that I can reach the easiest as well. So from that standpoint, what we really call this is focusing, identifying on the target customer, target market, and being able to get our name to them repetitively, cost-effectively, and they will be the future of our business. They will spread by word of mouth. They will spread by viral marketing online. These are the people that will keep coming back to us. So we focus on finding and getting to our target market, our target customer. We also want to look at, see what the market and what the industry is doing. We want to look at it from a local level. Are there ways to expand to different areas? What is the industry doing? Is the industry growing? Is the industry shrinking? And what are the reasons for that? Maybe we don't get into a certain industry because it's starting to pull back, it's starting to shrink. Or we see a new industry, a new market, we can tailor our product or service a little bit differently and really go after that group as well. And lastly, we also want to look at your competition, right? We want to look at it from a pricing standpoint. Make sure that we can fit into what that market price range is. We want to see what they are doing well, what they aren't doing well. And there's a lot of different ways that we can take advantage of that as well. Because if people are in the industry and people are making sales and taking profits in a certain industry, they invented the wheel for us. We don't have to redo it. Let's see what other people are doing, switch it a little bit, and then attack and go after it that way as well. So from a process standpoint, that's what we really want to focus on. Dr. Sarah Sarasvathy has a quote that I really like because I think it hits home no matter who you are. Work with what is in your control to co-create the future. It talks about your value, your control, and it talks about your future as well. Setting those goals for yourself, those specific goals, and strategy to actually get there. So as we go through this, and maybe even watch a different webinar, a different promotion from us, you will see me use this quote all the time because it is exactly true. We want to work with what's our control to change our future. And from the last standpoint, I said that I want you to set specific goals for yourself, right? It also works from my standpoint. My goal for everyone that comes into a consulting process with us, consulting relationship, or if you take the 4 Weeks to Feasible course through My Small Business Blueprint, my goal is that you can open your doors, you can be in business at the end of those 4 weeks. You'll have learned enough of the major points of a small business planning process that you will feel extremely strong in your convictions. You will feel extremely strong in the concepts that you learned and the process to actually take yourself from a concept, an idea, to an end goal, to opening your doors and becoming profitable. I don't necessarily care about you just opening the doors to your business and not being able to make sales from it. You need to take sales away. That's why we are doing this. Whether it's money, retirement, family, doesn't matter. You need to be able to take profit away from this, and that's what my goal is for you. So I said that very strongly in the beginning, what my goals are. We also want to work with what are your specific goals. Again, we want to say, $10,000 in sales in the first 2 months. Be able to retire in 5 years. Things that we can measure, things that we can adjust to. So I take my goals and we take your goals and we kind of work those together to make sure that you are getting as much out of this process as possible. The other part to this is that I want to give you the flexibility to be able to change course. The only way that you can do that is by understanding the process that we use to get to a feasibility study, to get to a business plan. Again, the end product of creating a written document, a written report, isn't necessarily that important. What's important is that you feel comfortable in changing course and pivoting based upon the feedback you get from your customers, the feedback you get from the market, and what you want to see happen with the business as well. So I'm going to give you that flexibility to change. From my standpoint, this is a fun process, but I will challenge you on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, to be better. Just because you turn in an activity or have an idea, doesn't mean that I'm going to take it as gospel. I'm going to challenge you to be better with those concepts. I'm going to challenge you to get the most out of this course as possible. This course is set up, 4 Weeks to Feasible is set up so that you are accelerated through the material. We do everything that you need to know in 4 weeks. We do that with web conferences. We do that with activities. But it is very fast-paced, and it goes after the core of what you want to do. The other part to this is I really focus on being your partner through this entire process, right? If I were just to give you the information and say, you know what, go on your own, send it back, make this a correspondence course, then it wouldn't necessarily work for what you want to see achieved. But from my standpoint, the way that I've always seen this be as successful as possible is really going after it, having that mentoring, having that relationship, that partnership that we can build on. Because at that point in time, you will trust in my ability. I will see what your skill sets are, and we can really meld the two to become very successful. So you're not always going to hear news that you want to hear. If I tell you to go back to the drawing board or rework something or go after a different market, it's because I want to see you become successful at this. So the only way that we can honestly do that is to become partners, to build that relationship, and to go on to the future. I told you about it at the beginning, but go and email me. If you have a question, if you want to bounce an idea off of me, email me, support@mysmallbusinessblueprint.com. You can go to mysmallbusinessblueprint.com. You can watch the training videos. We have different webinars built right into there. We have small business spotlights where I interview local entrepreneurs and what has worked well for them and some of the challenges and tribulations that they've gone through. So really get into that website because it's going to provide a lot of information even before you start consulting, even before you start a course. So I thank you for your time today, guys. Email me as soon as you can. Give me your information, and let's start this. Whether it's the 1st of the month, the 15th of the month, I would rather have done it 2 months ago and started that relationship. So thank you for your time. Get in touch with me today, and whatever questions you have, I look forward to being able to work with you and answer them as soon as possible. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.